Hello, everyone. This is Professor C, and we are having a recap of succession planning, building your talent pipeline. Since week one, many of us have had ongoing conversations about leadership development, and we also had the CEO Institute program case study. And as we move on to think about the final project, discussing succession planning has become a very important topic in HR and talent development. One thing we do know is that most companies really strive to have the right people in the right jobs at the right time. And as cliche as that sounds, companies operate with this idea that we have to manage our future talent pipeline. It's a win-win for the organization. It's a win for your people in your organization. It's a win for planning in case we have any critical vacancies. So succession plans really are a living and breathing tool. So it's not a plan that sits on the shelf and collects dust. It really does affect individual and group professional development. Whether you have a company that is involved in retail or nonprofits or manufacturing or even the military, succession planning is not a new concept. It's an idea that really has to do with formal, ongoing processes to identify future talent and preparing them to take on future roles in leadership and other roles, such as key expert roles. I always use the example of football. So even the best quarterback in the league, so if you say Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, they have a second string. They have a backup quarterback, and that's how you think about succession planning as well. So when we were talking about succession planning, there was a lot of discussion about these 5 techniques, and one was feedback and development plans, coaching and mentoring, lateral moves, special assignments, and peer learning groups. And those seem to be the predominant ones. So if we look at coaching and mentoring, we know that the Talent Development Association says that 75% of Fortune 500 companies use coaching and mentoring in their succession planning programs. We also discussed feedback and development plans, and it's important that formalized learning have goals and action plans following training, or skill transfer won't happen. And it's important to set goals for your high potentials and your center mass, moderate potential performers. Individual development plans should be a part of your performance management process, and it is a crucial element in succession planning. And I did see that some of the learners this week talked about SMART goals, so specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and timely. So we do use those as well when we put forth development plans. The next group that a lot of people talked about were special assignments. And I always say, yes, this makes sense, because we know that job enlargement, adding extra tasks to a person's job is one way to develop, right? Give them more of the same job, wider levels of responsibility. But what about job enrichment? So adding something that will grow their skill. You can give them a special project to run. You can have them oversee a team or a group. So special assignments is a great way to build skill. Also, peer learning groups. We do know that peer learning has been found to be one of the most successful tools in succession planning, as well as training transfer. And I always say that in my generation, Gen Xers, we assumed that succession meant promotion. That meant somewhere upward mobility, but actually today it means lateral moves. So going outside your own function. So if we're in HR, a lateral move might mean into finance or into operations. And that builds a holistic view of the organization. And usually high potentials, those people at the upper right of the 9 box, would be willing to do that. And it's okay if you're not willing to do that. I would definitely say I'd like to just stay in HR. So thinking about high potentials and high performers, the top right of the 9 box, those people really embody passion for quick movement. They're people that want to be developed and want to experience different types of opportunities within the organization, not just in their function. And I would say that one of the best examples of effective executive succession happened at McDonald's. And many people might not know this, but McDonald's Corporation held a regional and global meeting down in Florida. And the head of international operations for McDonald's, Jim Calapuno, died of a heart attack at the corporate meeting in Orlando, Florida. He actually got up from the table and died. However, you didn't really hear much about that. We know that nothing happened to the organization. There was no business impact because before that happened to Jim, he put in place programs for his successor years in advance, more than 5 years. So he was grooming 5 high potential people to take his place as the head of international operations for McDonald's. So his sudden death did not interrupt operations. They were able to successfully pick one of those high potentials that he had mentored and groomed, and there was a seamless transition of duties and leadership power. So think about that. Is your company prepared for such an event? Recently, I worked with a nonprofit agency to develop emergency succession plans to address such a critical need. We had a president who had all the institutional knowledge, all the trade secrets, and was approaching nearly 80 years old. So, that's a concern when no succession plans are in place, and especially when no emergency succession plans are in place. It's more common than people think. If you look at the Stanford Graduate School study, more than 900 nonprofits say that it takes an average of 3 to 6 months to even find a replacement for an executive leader. And the majority of Fortune 500 companies are still concerned about executive succession, and many do not have plans in place today. So just remember that these are some tools you can use in your succession planning to build your talent pipeline. So who has the greatest potential to develop? What are their most important development needs? Who is ready in the near term? Who is the best candidate for a particular future position? And how can we develop the skills of my high potential talent? And we know coaching and mentoring, feedback and development plans, and special assignments, along with lateral moves and peer learning groups, really, really work. Well, as we move into week 8, if you have any questions or want to talk more about succession, I really love this topic, so call me or email me. Thanks so much and have a great week.